The transfer portal has been around since 2018.
What is that?
But how much do you actually know about it as it pertains to college football in 2025? Let's huddle up and talk about it.
You don't want none! You don't want none!
What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? It is your favorite North Carolinian, Ross the Tar Heel, and in this huddle, baby, I'm going to discuss the college football transfer portal and hopefully give you a clear understanding of that process in 2025. And then afterwards, I'll give you a couple of my own personal thoughts on the whole thing. So if you're interested in that or what this diehard college football fan thinks, make sure that you stay tuned. So let's go ahead and get into this thing. Like was aforementioned, the NCAA transfer portal was put in place back in 2018 in order to better enable student athletes who were seeking other opportunities to transfer between universities. In October 2024, the NCAA reduced the total transfer window days from initially 45 to 30. This was done in an attempt to still afford the student athletes the ability to have control of their situation, while simultaneously attempting to allow college football programs the ability to have better roster stability between seasons. One can only imagine how much an entire program can be absolutely decimated if the majority of the team were to choose to seek opportunities elsewhere all at once. So, the first question that one person may ask is, when can a player transfer? Well, there are two transfer portal windows. One, the winter portal window, and the second one, the spring portal window. Not rocket science here. The winter transfer portal window's opening date was December 9th, 2024, and the closing date was December 28th of the same year. That was a 20-day window that allowed players to enter the portal following their regular season finale and the announcement of bowl games and the teams selected to participate in the college football playoff. Additionally, players that seasons lasted past that deadline, the 28th that is, they are granted an additional 5-day period after their season is over to enter their names in the portal and look for a different school to play for. So here would be the Barney style process. In order for the player to enter the transfer portal, they have to notify their current university's compliance officer, who then enters their name into the portal within 2 business days. At that point, all of the athlete's information is accessible to any coach and recruiter in the entire country, and the players can then be directly contacted by other programs, and they themselves can reach out to universities that they are interested in. Now, one of the important things to take into consideration is that student athletes entering the portal does not mean that they will for sure be picked up by a different university. They're also not forced to leave. Many players will enter the portal to explore their options, but then they still have the ability to remain with their current program. The purpose of the transfer portal was to give college athletes more control if they were to find themselves in a less than ideal situation for their own personal football future. Now, the spring transfer portal window opens April 16th of 2025 and closes April 25th, 2025, which is an additional 10-day window. That's the 30-day transfer portal window that we were talking about at the beginning. The reasoning behind this portal window was to enable players the ability to enter the portal after spring practices have concluded. So, if an athlete is unhappy with his positioning on the depth chart, if he's unhappy with the coaching staff, or even the environment that he's in, he can utilize this 10-day window to reach out to other universities to play at in the fall. Now, there's an additional instance in which players can announce their departure from the program. And that is if the head coach announces that he is leaving. Players from that point would have a 30-day window to enter the portal starting the day after the announcement of that head coach's departing that program. So the NCAA, and I'm not going to defend the NCAA too much, but they have a ridiculously difficult task of balancing player mobility and program stability. So what are some pros and cons of the transfer portal? Well, some pros are that the players have mobility. Athletes have the ability to look for the best possible situations, even if it's in their own minds, that fit their personal goals and endeavors. And you could say that coaches could benefit from the portal because it allows them to locate guys that could fill immediate team needs. And athletes who may not have been recruited by certain schools in high school, that they would have maybe rather attended, they're able to showcase their talents a year or two and then move on to a better situation or a more successful program. Some cons. There was a time when the NCAA had a one-year sit-out rule that made it necessary for players who were transferring to another D1 school to forsake the next football season before officially joining their future team. They were also only allowed to transfer one time, and as you can imagine, this was great for roster stability. Kids had to really ask themselves if they were, one, willing to forsake a year of football, especially if their aspirations were the NFL, and two, was the grass really greener on the other side? Because once you exhaust that transfer, it ain't like you can do it every single year. With unlimited transfers at the disposal of the student athletes in college football these days, it's like this perpetual state of free agency. So some would say that that is a negative component to the transfer portal. Now, speaking of NCAA football being in a perpetual state of free agency, another issue would be being able to retain your roster stability for the program and that coaching staff. When athletes can just come and go as they please, coaches have no idea what their roster makeup is going to look like after the season, or hell, even after the spring. And that is a nightmare for fans, but especially the coaches. So hopefully that gives you a much better understanding of the transfer portal process. Now, if you're interested, here's my 2 cents. And it will probably largely be impacted by my personal outlook on life, so I want you to stick with me here. People like to be able to freely move around, all right? There's no questions about that. No one likes to be tied down at all. It's almost a very terrifying thing. And this is just anecdotal from my own personal life, but I remember when I signed my first contract with the United States Army, right? 3 years, 30 months, $24,000 signing bonus. And unfortunately, it was $36,000 the day prior, but I didn't sign. When I came back, it had magically dropped 12 grand. And when I finally signed that contract, I knew that my ass belonged to Uncle Sam for no less than 3 years and 30 weeks. And once I signed, I was nauseous and relieved at the very same time, bro. There was no turning back. There was no mulligans. There was no. It is what it is. 3 years and 30 months, you belong to Uncle Sam. There were many days, especially during boot camp and other training events, where I legitimately asked myself, what in the hell did I get myself into? There were many days during my deployment to Iraq when, the little you-know-what in me thought about how nice it would be to get a 9-to-5 and spend my afternoons on the beach somewhere with some cush desk job. And then the dog would come out of me and I would handle my stinking business, man. And when that 3 years and 30 months was up, 30 weeks, was up, you know what I did? I extended for another 3 years, excited about what duty station Uncle Sam would send me to next. And where was Uncle Sam going to send me to? Well, in the Army, it's kind of like transferring somewhere, right? I was tired of where I was and I wanted to change. Where was my change? How about we send you from beautiful Texas to frigid Alaska for 3 years. And I spent many days in a short sleeve shirt and shorts doing physical training at 6:30 in the morning during the summer because the temperature and wind chill were still just above freezing. Yeah, you heard that right. During the summer. So you can imagine what the winter was like back in Alaska. I spent many days hanging out the side of a Black Hawk in the winter going 90 knots and my face is about to freeze off, jumping from 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet into 2 feet of snow wondering, what the hell am I doing here, man? And there was a contract in place and I wasn't going anywhere. And you know what else? It was good for me. 2 lessons here that I knew as a young man, but were reinstated in me during my time in the military. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, one. And more importantly, it's good for you to have to persevere through your situation. It's good for you to struggle and have to overcome. Basic was good for me. Iraq was good for me. Alaska was good for me. And guess what? They all sucked. All of them, they sucked. So my personal opinion is this. Signing on to a college, right, that's going to pay your tuition, provide nutrition and physical strength training and the experience of being a college football player should be almost treated like a military contract, man. As a young man, you're going to go through days that are unpleasant. You're going to feel underappreciated. You're going to feel, name the emotion, and persevering through those hard times is what helps you grow as a man. It teaches honor, respect, loyalty. It helps there to be a closer relationship between the program, the coach, the player, and the fan. Programs should not be allowed to withdraw your scholarship without cause. Coaches should also be held to contract so that the players understand who they will be playing for unless the coach is fired. And players should also be under contract, even if it's a 2-year thing, okay? But that's in unicorn land where there are no wars and crime doesn't exist and people as a whole are still honorable and loyal and everybody's just not out for themselves. So, you let me know what you think about the transfer portal down in the comment section. College, football, family. If you haven't already, do your boy a solid, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I hope you learned something, even if you don't agree with me, man. We'll see you on the next one, baby. Go Heels.